For thousands of years, if you wanted to remember a face, a sunset, or a moment in time, you had to rely on the fading whispers of your own memory or the expensive, often inaccurate brushstrokes of a painter. But imagine a world where time could be frozen in a box, where a mother's smile or a child's first steps could be captured forever on a piece of glass. Today, we are telling the story of the camera not as a gadget, but as the invention that fundamentally changed how the human race experiences time and grief. This is the journey of how we learned to stop time, and you're watching Layers of Innovation. Before we dive into this emotional history of light and shadow, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell. It helps us keep bringing these deep human stories to life. And if you've ever looked at an old photo and felt a rush of emotion, go ahead and hit the like button right now. It really helps the channel reach more people who love history just as much as you do. The story of the camera doesn't begin with a shutter or a lens. It begins with a fundamental human arc: the desire to hold on to what is slipping away. In the early 1800s, people were terrified of being forgotten. If you were poor, your face vanished the moment you died. Only the elite could afford portraits. But then came Louis Daguerre and Niépce in France. They weren't just scientists. They were men obsessed with the idea of fixing an image. Niépce created the world's first permanent photograph in 1826, titled Asterisk View from the Window at Le Gras Asterisk. It wasn't clear, and it took 8 hours of exposure to create. Think about that for a second. 8 hours of the sun moving across the sky just to capture one blurry rooftop. It was a miracle, but it was a quiet one that almost nobody noticed. When Niépce died shortly after, he was broke and largely forgotten, leaving his partner Daguerre to carry the torch of an invention the world didn't yet know it needed. Daguerre was a showman, a man who understood the emotional power of an image. He spent years experimenting with dangerous chemicals like mercury vapor, often risking his own health in unventilated rooms. In 1839, he finally perfected the daguerreotype. This was the first time in history that a human being could look at a mirror like silver plate and see a perfect, realistic reflection of reality that didn't move. When the French government announced the invention to the world, they called it a gift to the world. People were paralyzed with awe. They thought it was magic or some kind of witchcraft. They couldn't understand how a box could do what the greatest painters in the world struggled to do for a lifetime. But this magic came with a heavy emotional price. Because the exposure times were still very long, people had to sit perfectly still for several minutes. This is why everyone in early photos looked so serious. They were literally straining to remain motionless, their necks held in place by hidden iron clamps, just so they wouldn't become a blur in history. This struggle for clarity led to one of the most heartbreaking chapters in the history of photography: post-mortem portraits. In the mid-19th century, mortality rates were high, especially for children. For many families, the only time they could afford a photograph was after a loved one had already passed away. They would dress the deceased in their best clothes and pose them as if they were sleeping, just to have one single visual record that they ever existed. Here at Layers of Innovation, we look at these artifacts not as macabre, but as a testament to the camera's true purpose, a shield against the cruelty of death. The camera wasn't just a tool for art, it was a tool for survival. It allowed a grieving father to look at his daughter's face long after she was gone. It turned the fleeting into the permanent. As the decades passed, the struggle shifted from making the image exist to making the camera accessible. Enter George Eastman, a bank clerk who hated how heavy and complicated cameras were. In the 1880s, if you wanted to take a photo, you needed a wagon full of glass plates and toxic chemicals. Eastman wanted to change that. He spent his nights in a kitchen, experimenting with a new way to capture light on film. He failed hundreds of times, facing bankruptcy and the skepticism of the entire industry. But in 1888, he released the Kodak camera with the slogan, "You press the button, we do the rest." This was the moment the camera moved from the laboratory to the living room. Suddenly, the common man could document his own life. The camera became the keeper of family trees, the witness to weddings, and the silent observer of war. The emotional weight of the camera reached a peak during the American Civil War, and later, World War I for the first time. People back home didn't just hear about the horrors of the front lines. They saw them Photographers like Matthew Brady took their cameras onto the battlefields, capturing the grim reality of the conflict. These images didn't just record history, they changed how we felt about it. The camera stripped away the romanticism of war and replaced it with the cold, hard truth. It forced humanity to look at itself in a way that couldn't be ignored. This power to move the public conscience is perhaps the greatest legacy of the lens. It gave a voice to the voiceless and made the suffering of people, thousands of miles away, feel like it was happening in our own backyard. As we moved into the 20th century, the camera continued to evolve, becoming faster and more intimate. The invention of the 35mm Leica allowed photographers to capture the decisive moment. A kiss in a crowded street, a soldier falling in battle, a child's laugh. We stopped posing for the camera and started living in front of it. This shift changed our psychology. We began to view our lives as a series of frames. We started to dress for the photo, to smile for the photo, and eventually, to live for the photo. The struggle was no longer about whether the image would turn out. It was about what the image said about us. The camera became a mirror not just of our faces, but of our souls and our societal values. Think about the sheer volume of memories we carry in our pockets today. A modern smartphone has more photographic power than Louis Daguerre could have dreamed of in 1,000 lifetimes. But has that made the images less precious? In the 1840s, a single photo was a family treasure passed down through generations. Today, we take thousands and often never look at them again. The struggle of the modern age is different. It's a struggle against the noise of too much information. Yet, the core purpose remains the same. Whether it's a grainy plate from 1839 or a 4K digital file from 2026, we are still just humans trying to hold on to a moment before it disappears into the past. We are still trying to prove that we were here, that we loved, and that we mattered. The history of the camera is a story of human persistence against the fading of light. From Niépce's Tower exposure to Eastman's rolls of film, every step was a battle against the impossible. These innovators didn't just build machines, they built a new way for us to love one another across time. When you look at an old photo of your grandparents, you are looking through a window that was built by men who refused to let the past stay in the dark. It is a profound, beautiful, and sometimes painful technology that has redefined the human experience. It has given us the power to be immortal, if only in a frame. We want to know your story. Is there a specific photograph in your life that changed how you remember a person or a place? Maybe it's an old, tattered black and white photos or a digital snap that captures a perfect day. Please share that story in the comments below. We love reading about the personal connections you have with the topics we cover here on Layers of Innovation. Your stories are what make this community so special. If this journey through the history of the lens moved you, please share this video with a friend or a family member who loves photography. Let's spread the word about how these incredible inventions shaped our world. Thank you so much for watching, for your engagement, and for being a part of this journey. We'll see you in the next video as we continue to peel back the layers of the innovations that make us who we are. Remember to keep capturing your own history, because one day, those photos will be all that remains of the moments we hold dear.